Alrighty, welcome everyone. While folks still trickle in, I'm gonna do sort of some housekeeping notes as we get started tonight. We're so glad that you're all here, and I'm particularly glad to be hosting this lovely new collaboration between Books Across Borders and the United States Board on Books for Young People, or USBBY, where although we may be experimenting with USB. I'm Daniel O'Brien and the director of Books Across Borders, and I'm happy to play the court jester this evening, but even more pleased that my friend and wonderful literary citizen, Michael Reynolds of Europa Editions, will moderate the conversation tonight. In terms of the run of the show for the evening, I will introduce the USBBY Selection Committee. Then I'll turn it over to Michael for a conversation with Susan Polos of USBBY. And then we'll have a series of presentations of the wonderful book selections this year. We'll intersperse the presentations with trivia, and there'll be some lovely prizes, including um, an audiobook gift certificate, 1 year subscription to Kirkus, an audiobook gift certificate, 1 year subscription to Horn Books, and an FBM trade visitor ticket, an audiobook gift certificate, and 1 year subscription to SLJ FBM trade visitor ticket, a Junior Library Guild book and swag bag, a one-on-one interview to share your thoughts on the importance of reading with the Why We Read FBM project, and an FBM trade visitor ticket. And finally, an advertisement space on the Storytellers Foundation website and an FBM trade visitor ticket. We'll get more to trivia stuff later. But to start, I just want to briefly introduce Michael Reynolds, our moderator this evening, as well as the OIB committee. We have Emily Pendergrass, PhD, Vanderbilt University, Robin L. Gibson. Hold on here. Sorry, y'all. There we go. Emily Pendergrass, PhD, Vanderbilt University, Robin L. Gibson, Fairfield County District Library, the Northwest Branch, Sue Parsons of Oklahoma State University, Tarena Matlub, University of Northern Iowa, Yunko Sakoi at the University of Arizona, and then plus we have today's presenters, Susan Polos of the USBBY President, Laura Simeone of Kirkus Reviews, Ricky Stock of Frankfurter Book Fair, and Jackie Garcia Morales of the Storytellers Foundation. I briefly want to thank our sponsors of this evening. We have Kirkus Reviews, Ingram Content Group, Frankfurt Book Fair, The Horn Book, Junior Library Guild, the School Library Journal, Why We Read, and the Storyteller's Shelf podcast. So without further ado, I am thrilled to turn it over to Michael to start our conversation this evening.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I too am thrilled to be here and be a part of this event. It's very exciting for me. For those of you who don't know me, I run an independent publisher called Europa Editions, and Europa is dedicated to bringing works in translation into this market in the United States. So this is particularly important. The subject of tonight's discussion is particularly important for me. I think a long time ago we started thinking about doing some books for young readers as well in translation at Europa Editions. And initially I was quite hesitant because I thought the last thing that we need is a new project at Europa. We're having hard enough time keeping up with the ones that we were already involved in at Europa. But I started looking around at the dearth, the absence of books for children and for young readers coming from other languages in this market, and was convinced by what I saw that it was something that we needed to do. And I guess I wasn't alone, because I see that the USBBY and the International Board on Books for Young People are thinking along the same lines and thinking that there has to be a greater exchange, greater availability books by authors, international illustrators, storytellers available for readers in this market. So, Susan, I'm turning to you. Susan Pollis, the president of the United States Board of Books for Young People. And I first wanted to ask you a little bit about this organization, about USBBY. What is it? How is it related to IBBY? Yes, those two questions. Tell us about USBBY.
Thank you. Thank you so much. USBBY is one of 85 sections representing 85 countries that together form IBBY, which is the International Board on Books for Young People. IBBY was started in 1953. It was founded largely by Jelle Leppmann, who was she was a German Jew who left Germany during the terrible Nazi regime, and she was brought back by the American military to re-educate German children, and she felt that that could be done best by bringing in books from other countries. And so she wrote to all the 20, I think, different countries and asked them to send books that were heavily illustrated or could be translated in German so that German children would have a broader perspective of the world. And I think that's what we're trying to do with USBBY for our own children here in America, trying to make sure that they have a broader appreciation of the world, a different perspective, because topics that are often published here are they're differently. We don't talk the same way about death. We don't talk the same way about social class. So I think that's one thing we're all committed to is bringing in books from other countries.
So IBBY has a long history of this kind of exchange, but I'm not sure I quite caught how long has USBBY been around and been doing this work?
It's been doing this work for that long, for
that long as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, right on. And then tell me a little bit about the Outstanding International Book Award Prize honor. When was that founded? What is it for? How is it decided?
So that is more recent. It's 20 years this year that we've had the Outstanding International Book Committee. In, I think, 2002, it was suggested at a board meeting that this might be something to do to draw more attention, to make those books more visible, to promote them, and to just make sure that the best books got some attention. So a committee was formed at one of the board meetings, and they met at the American Library Association to consider criteria and what the procedure would be. And this is the 20th year that there's been a list. It's usually between 38 and 42 titles that represent the best books that that the committee considers. And
what kind of books are eligible and which books aren't eligible?
The books have to have been published first in another country and then published within that year that we're looking at. So the 2026 OIB list are books that were published in 2025. They don't have to be translated, but we're looking at representation. We have a map that you'll see, I think, of where the different books are coming from. We would like it to be broader, but we can't promote books that aren't translated here. We also just want to encourage US publishers to distribute and to bring in books from other countries. We think that's so important.
Sorry, this is just something that occurred to me now because it's been a big part of my professional life. But do you find you get resistance from publishers and from distributors to books in translation or books coming from other countries?
I think so. I think it's more expensive, right? It's expensive to pay for translation. It's sometimes the books are different and publishers don't feel secure in their saleability or in what they represent. They're looking sometimes for something more formulaic. I don't mean to put down publishers in any way, but you know, it's a business, and I think it's sometimes it's brave to bring in books that we know, you know, some publishers that do, and they're books that we see a lot on our OIB list, and we're grateful for those publishers.
Can they generally be considered sort of more challenging or more Braver. You use the word brave. Are they braver books, the way that they deal with certain themes?
I think so. I think we when we read these books and we see how certain topics like
Mm,
class,
mm,
death, how you relate to your parents, these things are not often the way I
mm.
see books that are first published here.
Yeah, dealing with these
See
same
that as
themes.
well?
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Sorry, I absolutely do. Actually, when we first started at Europe Editions, we were, throwing pretty much everything we could find out into the market to see what was sticking, and we actually did quite a lot of children's book publishing in the very early years. And in particular, one particular example comes to mind. We translated about 3 or 4 books in a series of books by an Italian author. His name was Altan, and they're extremely popular books featuring this little sort of dog-like character, who in Italian was named Pimpa. We clearly had to change the name of this little dog-like character, but we took care of that. Um, but when we went, we were convinced that, these were entertaining and fun and interesting books for young people. And when we went to our salespeople and to our distributors, they said, "Well, no, you can't publish these books in America." We asked why, why not? Um, and the answer was, one variation of, well, there's not a moral. Yeah, they're sort of an amoral. It's an amoral story. This Timpa, this little dog-like character, gets away with everything. They're morally ambivalent books, and that seemed to preclude them from being published in the United States. We published a few of them anyway. And I think the readers who found them really enjoyed them for that very reason, because and maybe kids also even understand that better, the idea of moral ambivalence. I mean, they're looking always at their very morally ambivalent adults in their lives, right? So I think it was something that they understood immediately, the kids that found these books. So yeah, I do think that there are a set of assumptions in the United States about what is suitable, what works, what is too challenging, too difficult for young readers here, and those assumptions maybe exist to be challenged. Yeah, and I think the Outstanding International Book is doing that to a certain degree. Would you agree?
I would agree. I would agree.
Yeah. Um, what are the challenges, do you think, of creating greater visibility for the award and for the books that are honored with this award?
Um, that's a good question. I think, we try to do it through our patron organizations, ALA, NCTE, ILA, and CBC. We have programming and we try to get the books out. School Library Journal has been faithful in at least online uh, inclusion. But we're really, this committee right now, we are full speed ahead. We are trying in every way to get this list out, because we think it's so important, especially important right now, that our children have different perspectives and understand that there's a whole world out there where there are children too, and those children feel things and experience things maybe a little differently, but it's very important for our children to read these books. These are great books. We're proud of this list.
Have you seen the landscape for children's books change over the 20 or so years of the Outstanding International Book?
Well, we hope that we're getting more books. It last year we got a little less than the year before. So, but one of our hopes is that by shining a light on these great books, more publishers will publish more books. So I don't know. I
Mm,
think
mm,
that the books are beautiful. I think books published here are beautiful too. They're great books, but it's just that they're different. the illustrations
Mm.
are different enough that they're special, and they deserve an audience. And
I'm curious about if you can take us inside the inner chamber of the committee at the moment and um, tell us whether or not sort of the politics that we're living through at the moment is sort of changing the way you're thinking about this award, the way you're thinking about children's books or not.
certainly, well, I think if you look at the list, you'll see that there are quite a few books about the immigrant experience, books about refugee experience, books about war. These books are important, and it's really important for children in our culture and our world
Mm,
to see what the experience is of other children, because we are living through a, xenophobia. We are living through a time of our government is being very oppressive, and
mm,
so I think
mm,
that these books, when we get them in, we have to push them out as widely as possible. And
mm,
they're beautiful, beautiful books that tell stories that very much need to be heard, very much
mm.
need to be shared.
Have you run afoul of the censors yet at all with the outstanding international book, with the movement to ban certain books and certain themes in books?
I am not aware of that, but I think there's self-censoring. There are people that don't buy the books. If the books aren't in the
Mm,
bookstores, if the books aren't in libraries, they're not
mm,
available. But
mm, mm,
I'm not aware of that.
okay. And the one very, very important question, why is IBI called IBI and the USBBY is the USBBY? Why not USB?
Well, as one member of the committee said earlier, it's because IBI flows off the tongue and USBY not so much. But that is, it's so interesting, right? I don't know. We'll call it USBY tonight. We'll see if it'll
Let's call it
stick.
USB tonight.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. Over to you, Daniel. We have a trivia
Hey,
question,
yeah,
is
I
that
think
right?
we're up for trivia, so let me give you two a break. And right, and we're going to okay, trivia question number one coming up. You all should see it on your screen in a moment. And here it is. What is the name of the awards given every other year by IBI to one author and one illustrator of children's books? Is it the Mildred L. Batchelder Award, the Hans Christian Andersen Award, the Carnegie Medal, or the Astrid Lindgren Memorial Award? 20 more seconds. Get your answers in. No fear, no public humiliation allowed. All right, and we are closing it down now. Okay, so the correct answer is the Hans Christian Andersen Award at so we've got a good chunk of folks who know that. So I think that makes us happy here. We will have, winners. I don't think I said this. I can't remember, but we'll send. I'm going to download all the answers and find out who answered the most questions correctly, and we will announce that via email after the event. So everyone who's registered will get the email and notice, and we'll reach out to get you the awards for the winners. So that's just a note. And let's see here. Next up, we're going quickly back to Michael and Laura, and then we're going to start sharing the wonderful titles from the list. So I am going to put you back on, Michael.
Am I back? Yes.
You're back, and I'm
All right,
looking
very good.
for Laura. Found ya.
Right, Laura. Hi.
Hello, hi Michael.
Nice to see you again. I'm going to pick up a thread from my conversation with Susan and ask you, Laura Simeon, you are the young readers editor at Kirkus,
One of the two. Mhm.
one of the team. Tell me about the changing landscape, if it is a changing landscape for kids' books in this country. I don't think there's anyone who's in a better place to answer that than you. So what have you seen over, the past decade or so?
So globally, and I feel like it's often cyclical, and so it's easy to make this confident pronouncement, and then in a few years that we're reliving, old patterns. But I definitely feel like there's been more awareness of the importance of broad, inclusive representation in children's books and teen literature. But how that's defined shifts. And there's still the matter, it is a business, publishing, and so there has to be a market. And we've certainly been badly affected by book bans and challenges, which have an impact on marketability. And Susan referenced the sort of quiet censorship where people
Mm,
just don't put a book on the shelves. And I'm a former school librarian, so I'm very sympathetic to the fact that people are aware that often their jobs are at stake and they live in communities and they feel vulnerable. um, but and if you're a bookseller, you want the books to move off the shelf. You're not just keeping them there. And so
mm,
it's that tension between understanding what you should do, or what, not just in a moral sense, but what kids deserve, readers deserve, and the realities that you face. And then on the back end, publishers face that challenge of how do you market this, where will it fit in, and so on. And I do think,
mm.
bringing it back to sort of USBBY in our list, that the perception of the importance of international books as part of inclusive, diverse representation is maybe not given as much attention as it deserves.
That's a beautiful answer. Is there something even sort of separate from the themes, the subjects, the way that a particular book might address certain arguments? Is there something about international books or books in translation that scare us or that make us hesitant to embrace them in the way that we might embrace a book that is written originally in English?
I do think there's often fear and hesitation. I think it comes from a place of caring. Adults who work with kids, they want to get it right. They want to do well by young people. And often they're worried, will I pronounce something wrong? Is this book not really authentic? Do I have a right to share this story? There's a lot of things that can hold people back. Oh, and this is a lovely collage of the books from
Mm,
this year's list. And so I just want to say, like, I think it's important to acknowledge that if you're hesitant, that's not a reason to hold back. Kids deserve to have access to the world of books. And one topic that comes up a lot is how many international books we see, and we don't have exact statistics. I'd love to see somebody track that. The number that's bandied about a lot is that we have about 3% books in translation, but that doesn't count all the international books from anglophone countries around the world, like Commonwealth countries and so on. But what can really help if you're not sure what to do is, I would say, do a little bit of homework. Go to the author's website, the publisher's website, social media, look for educator guides, just read up a little bit. I will go to YouTube, and then I also like the site Forvo, Forvo, which a lot of actually an audiobook narrator recommended it to me, and it has pronunciations of words. A lot of authors are teaching books.net will have authors pronouncing their own names. One tip is to group, no, don't just choose one book from a particular culture or place, choose several, and then you have this mosaic, and you avoid that risk of presenting a book as, this is the way things are. Then it becomes, this is one story among a multitude of stories from a particular place. Another option is to group books from different cultures by theme, and not in a way to erase differences, but to kind of enhance, like build bridges, show that there are these fundamental human universal connections, but also you can highlight how commonalities show up differently in different contexts, which is really enlightening. And actually, in a moment, we're going to be introducing our books by theme, which can be really helpful, if you're out there trying to figure out where to start.
Laura, thank you so much. Those are great tips, and it's just lovely to hear you talking about international books in this way.
Oh, next slide, please. Yes, so Jackie popped a link into the comment section. Actually, I meant to say, if you have questions at any point, go ahead and put them in the comments, and then if we have time, we'll get to them at the end, or maybe follow up by email if we can. But if you go to usbby.org, there's a drop-down menu. It says awards and lists, and you can select the Outstanding International Book List by year and go down beneath all the thumbnails of the titles, and you will see a map that shows the settings of the various books. And it's just this nice visual representation. You can see there is a good range. There are also blank spots. So if there are any publishers out there, we would love to see, some of these areas filled in, because we know there's a lot more out there, a lot of riches. And also on the website, there's a printable list of all the titles, and it includes the authors, illustrators, the translators, who, of course, deserve to be named. And sometimes are not on book covers, where they should be, as well as, the publishers and the locations. Okay. Next slide, please.
Yep. So we're going to move into the books now by theme.
So we're just going to dive in with a quick overview, and I will introduce a couple of the themes. Let's see.
Apologies, give me 1 second, because the link to the map opened and messed up.
Oh, no worries.
We're gonna get there in a second. Oh, it keeps opening.
That's good. We know the link works. That's good.
Yeah, the link is working, everybody. Let me just go ahead and do the ugly way.
That's okay. Perfect. Okay, so our first theme is family, featuring books from Canada, China, France, and Argentina. And these books explore some of the most important bonds in our lives. So we've got Picking Tea with Baba, which shows that even the hard work of harvesting tea leaves on a mountain in China is a source of special memories when seen through a child's eyes. We've got My Friend May, in which a little girl has lost her beloved cat and misses her aunt who has moved away. In this gentle story, readers also learn about Plains Cree language and culture. In Every Belly, a Canadian child's hilarious commentary introduces readers to the diverse friends and neighbors whose lives intersect with her and her mom's at their urban community swimming pool. The Ordinary Life of Jacquemina's Gainsborough, which is from France, offers glimpses into the world of a rabbit whose life is far from ordinary thanks to the love of family and friends. And An Argentinian Boy and His Grandfather share a moment of pure magic in How to Reach the Moon, which celebrates the power of imagination to turn a forest walk into something extraordinary. Okay, next slide, please. So our second theme is friendship, play, and social life with books from Sweden, Northern Ireland, South Korea, and Japan. And these books offer an important reminder that playtime and social connections are central to healthy childhoods. In the playdate, two children in Sweden who come from very different backgrounds connect through play, finding commonalities in ways that aren't available to their mothers. Giant is middle grade historical fiction that centers on two boys in Belfast, one of whom grows up to be the acclaimed author C.S. Lewis. They find escape from real life problems in the worlds they imagine. The slice of life story Blue Sky Morning shows a little Korean girl on her way to school taking the time to notice family, neighbors, and schoolmates on a luminous autumn day. Something as simple as cavorting in the rain is a source of tremendous joy for a Japanese child in Downpour, Splish, Splash, Kersplash, a book enhanced by rich onomatopoeia. In the Snow Theater, a Japanese boy skis into the woods after arguing with his friend, and he finds a magical miniature theater with tiny performers who put on a magical show.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you, Michael. And we're going to move into our next trivia question. So once again, you will see the poll pop up on your screen in a moment, and we'll leave it up for a minute to answer. Okay. Which of these children's book creators has won both the Hans Christian Andersen Award and the Astrid Lindgren Memorial Award? Is it Catherine Peterson, David Almond, Cao Wensan, or Eva Lindstrom? I'm not talented enough to know how to put the Jeopardy music on, but next time we're gonna figure it out. You just wait. Okay, we're closing it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and the correct answer is A, Catherine Peterson, 63%. Not bad, not bad. Alrighty, I think next up we're moving to Jackie. So I'm gonna find you, Jackie, and there you are. We'll go ahead and put you up, and then we will move on over here. Turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. All right, let's dive into this theme, finding your place in the world. So the books in this category come from countries like Chile, Japan, and Norway, and each explores belonging across very different landscapes, whether that's political, magical, post-apocalyptic, or migratory. In Paloma Flies Away from Chile, a child navigates exile and return, reminding us that identity can stretch far across borders. Japan's The Village Beyond the Mist brings readers into a hidden, magical valley where courage and self-trust shape belonging. Norway's Beast centers survival and sibling devotion in a fractured world, asking what home means when everything familiar disappears. In My Home is in My Backpack, home becomes something carried in memory and relationship rather than tied to a single fixed place. Altogether, these books show that belonging is shaped by movement, resilience, and courage. They really do expand how young readers can understand very serious topics like migration, displacement, and identity through global perspectives from an age-appropriate point of view. And each truly deserves a space on our shelves in a time when these topics can be really quite sensitive. They give us that keystone for conversation. Next slide, please, Daniel. Thank you. All right, next theme, The World Around Us, features books from across the United Kingdom and Nigeria, Colombia, Russia, South Korea, and China. These titles invite readers to look outward with curiosity and with care. In M is for Mango, the alphabet becomes a celebration of global foods and cultures. Journey of the Humpbacks traces migration of whales across hemispheres, connecting Antarctica to Colombia through science and awe. Sound explores the concepts rooted in physics behind everyday experiences, while Pencil reveals the environmental journey of a simple object's life cycle. In Take a Walk with the Wind, poetic language and traditional aesthetics transform the wind into a living presence. So, as you can see together, these works blend science, art, ecology, and culture. They encourage children to notice small connections and understand that the world functions through interdependence, both with and without human guidance. These international voices broaden how readers see their role within a shared global ecosystem, which is a topic that's understated and vital as we operate in a world where we're in an active movement for reconnection with nature, particularly through scientific discovery. Next slide, please. And now the theme of resilience and self-discovery, which includes very, very, very powerful books from France, Australia, Mexico, Norway, and Spain. In many ways, this collection of books really reminds me of Publishers Weekly's Tough Topics for Kids because each gives us a tool to explain complex concepts to children that are really quite hard for even adults to come to terms with emotionally. So these stories explore grief, cultural continuity, emotional courage, and personal strength. In Is It Asleep, children are given very gentle language for understanding death. Australia's Afloat centers indigenous knowledge and collective action in response to climate change. Mexico's Croco shows how vulnerability can become strength. Norway's My Brother creates space for longing and healing after profound loss. And Spain's Astro explores friendship and grief in a very quiet, otherworldly setting. Across cultures, these books affirm that resilience is not about avoiding hardship, but about feeling deeply, remembering, processing emotional bodies in a grounded way, and moving forward together. They offer emotional frameworks with hints of different cultures that transcend borders. And the books, of course, they do deserve a place on our shelves because they help us grow well-rounded and holistic toolkits to process in very difficult times that we all are forced to experience in life. And I'll say that people are experiencing too often these days, and children are seeing it represented widely in media. Next slide.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jackie. Let's go ahead and open up our next trivia question. Okay. The International Youth Library in Munich puts out an annual catalog of notable international children's and teen literature. What is it called? Bookbird, The Edgars, The Lion and the Unicorn, or The White Ravens? Yeah. Please do answer on the poll and not in the chat if you'd be so kind. And 10 seconds left. Okay. And the results are in, and the answer is the White Ravens. Again, that one was not, not our best one. So maybe we've got some people learning some things on this one. We like that. We like learning and we like knowing. They're both good. Okay, so let me go ahead and close out our trivia poll, and then I'm gonna bring up Ricky spotlight Ricky and turn it over to Ricky for culture, art, and community expression.
Yes, hi, thank you. Before I start, I just wanted to tell you that, our presentations and descriptions here are short, but we have long summaries on our OIB website, and I encourage you to look at them and find the information about the artists and authors, and very important also the translators, as they are not always mentioned on the cover, and they deserve a lot of credit for bringing us these wonderful books. And also Ingram has our OIB books as an expertly curated collection on the iPage. So we hope you check them out. And then the next category, we feature books from Argentina, South Korea, the UK, and Lithuania that explore culture, art, and community expression and help young people understand themselves while discovering diverse cultures and backgrounds. Set in 1920s Argentina, Clara and the Man with Books in His Window traces a young girl's friendship with a reclusive man, creating a gentle connection across generations. Next is Ukshondong Candy, which is a graphic memoir that shows the deep bond between the author's grandparents in South Korea, reflecting on aging, caring, and loss. Dropping Beats is a hilarious story about a marginalized teenage boy who's also an aspiring rapper that offers a fresh take on self-discovery and self-belief. The Bees, the woman who rocked Lithuania, celebrates a groundbreaking 1960s all-woman rock band as famous as the Beatles, using graphic novel storytelling to illuminate creativity, resistance, and women's cultural impact. Next slide, please, Daniel. Under power, conflict, and social struggle, we compiled 4 books that are either from or about Mexico, Sweden, Italy, and Cameroon. First one, Pilgrim Codex, follows a feminist myth-infused journey out of Mexico, blending danger, cultural memory, and codex-style imagery to show how migration becomes both a physical and a spiritual act of survival. Through humor and viral mishap, Biggest Fake in the Universe explores how a Swedish 7th grader navigates identity, independence, and the pressures of a rapidly shifting social world. Old as Stone, Hard as Rock, of Humans and War, a very important book, offers a poetic, visually layered meditation on humanity's long relationship with conflict. When we chose that book, we didn't know how timely it would become, juxtaposing natural beauty with the impacts of violence. Adi of Tonga portrays a Cameroonian girl's fight against forced marriage, highlighting the power of education, refuge, and self-determination in the face of cultural and familial pressure. These 4 books reveal how people encounter and resist forces that seek to limit them, offering readers insight into resilience, justice, and the many forms that struggle and strength can take. Thank you. I'm handing it over to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Ricky. Okay, and we are up to another trivia round. Here we go. Poll coming up now. The Neve Book Award, an annual honor for an outstanding work for children or teens from and about India, is announced at the Neve Literature Festival in which Indian city? Bangalore, Jaipur, Delhi, or Mumbai? 10 seconds to get an answer in. And ending the poll. Okay, the answer is Bangalore. So I think we've learned something on that one today too. Very exciting. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and move us on. Let's see here. Gonna move on to identity with Susan. Susan, I'm gonna find you.
I think it's taking action.
Spotlight. Taking action. You are correct.
Thank you. Okay, our next theme is taking action with books from Switzerland by a Korean author illustrator writing in German, Canada by an Indian author, France by a French Indian author, Britain and Australia. These books inspire action as they show how young people respond to needs in their family, their communities, and the world. In The 3-Year Tumble, a young girl reinterprets an ancient superstition previously viewed as misfortune by her grandfather, changing his perspective and his mindset. The Sunshine Project tells about a boy who asks the right questions when a proposed solar factory threatens local marine life, advocating for just and sustainable solutions. Based on actual events, Electric Birds of Patakudi is the story of a teen who convinces his village that it is worth going without electricity to protect Vanathi Kuravi's magpie robins nesting in the streetlight switchboard box. Tiger is about a classic battle of good versus evil set in a recognizable yet disturbingly oppressive alternate 21st century London, a working class Muslim boy protecting an otherworldly creature who is the defense against an intolerant society. In The Hidden Girl, a young teen discovers a plea from a trafficked Indonesian girl and responds in pursuit of this girl through contemporary Melbourne and Indonesia, determined to save the girl and expose her captor. Young readers are empowered by stories that offer examples of resistance to injustice across the globe. Next. And this is identity, voice, and personal transformation, our final theme. It includes books from Sweden, the Netherlands, Ireland, and China. It is the work of young people to learn how to be their true selves, to use their voices, and to consciously align their actions with their authentic identities. In Butterfly Heart, a teen with a Sami mother and a Swedish father navigates grief, puberty, social media, and shifting relationships as she seeks to embrace her Indigenous heritage. Self-Portrait shares the journey of self-awareness and ultimate acceptance that accompanies coming to terms with gender identity. Solo is the story of a young musician who abandons her instrument after she is betrayed by her boyfriend and her best friend. She becomes further unmoored when her father is diagnosed with cancer, but she grows beyond these losses, finding that music is part of who she is and thus her way forward. Wrestlers of the Grassland shows the ways in which traditional wrestlers of Inner Mongolia model resilience, strength, and a willingness to work for the good of all, serving as role models for a young child. Growing up is a journey, often with unexpected twists and turns. International literature allows young readers to know that they are not alone and that struggles are part of the process everywhere. Next. Thank you so much for coming. We're not finished, but I do want you to know that there is another opportunity for a wonderful USBBY sponsored webinar a week from tomorrow night, when the Ireland's Children's Laureate for Literature and who is Patricia Ford is in conversation with Mac Barnett, our own National Ambassador for Young People's Literature. This will be moderated by USBBY board member and head of Publisher Spotlight, Ellen Myrick. So join us for that one too. next.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, it's time for our last trivia question of the evening. Poll coming up. The National Centre for Children's Books in Newcastle upon Tyne in the north of England goes by what name? Green No, Pooh Corner, Seven Stories, or The Wardrobe? Okay, about 10 seconds to get your answers in. Okay, and the correct answer was indeed Seven Stories, which I just learned tonight, which is also an independent publisher that also has international translated literature for children. So thank you for that. That was a fun little trivia game. As we previously mentioned, but I'll mention again, when I download the poll results, we'll be able to find out our top responders. We'll reach out to you via email to get you a prize, and we'll announce that in an email to everyone. The email to everyone will come maybe in a week or so, and we will send you the recording of the session as well as the list and links that were shared, so you can go and check out the books and the longer descriptions that were mentioned. And I think we have a few minutes. If anyone has any questions for anyone who presented tonight, from USBBY, from Books Across Borders, Michael from Europa, please go ahead and drop them in the chat or raise your hand, and we'd love to answer them in our last few minutes here. We'll wait 1 minute, but I think maybe we're good to go. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with us. But other than that, I think we are all set this evening. It's been a pleasure to host you. I want to thank everyone from USBBY, Michael, and Ricky as well. Ricky Stockwood, for us in organizing this. Thank you so much for all your help and support. And we're thrilled to be partnering with you. And that's all for tonight, folks. We'll see you in the future, hopefully at the next USBBY seminar. All right.
Thank you for having us, and thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.